呈现，拥抱着冬夜里恋爱日光在呈现。
Hello, and this is another Taphicles battle report. It's basic Impetus 2, and again we're doing some practice games, and obviously playing for the fun of it as well, ready for the forthcoming tournament. It is now December 2017, and to give Rogers a chance to practice against something different, and to not just keep using our proposed tournament armies, I think what's a really bad matchup for a cavalry army, potentially, could be the 100 Years' War English with their longbows and stakes potential. Now, we've come to the conclusion the cavalry armies are pretty much the strongest, but I fancy having a go with these. So, first of all, we look at the Korean army, which I think you're familiar with if you followed any of the previous reports. And you'll see there in yellow the changes that have been made to go with the second option and bring in those very nasty guys with the double attacks. And you can see there the cost of doing that change there. The problem with this, and what is really causing Roger some consternation about choosing them, is this 2 units of long spear. They're not tough enough to be an anvil or to bash through the middle. They're too slow to go on the flanks. They're a bit of a liability, really. So using them is the challenge with this army. Apart from that, extremely powerful, very good cavalry, and shooting options as well. And those very nasty, nutty guys with the twin swords. And over to the 100 Years' War English. Although I'd like to point out there's a very strong Welsh contingent. And we got some claims to Henry V himself. Actually, some of those wars are Welsh kings. And I'm calling them Welsh, all those longbows, Welsh longbow. And gone for option 2, which I think really improves this army. The cost is you lose. If you look at the top line, King and Household Heavy Cavalry, there's 0. I shall put a red block on there. They've been traded in, and in return for that, the longbows get stakes, and you can see the rules for those at the bottom. As long as you don't move and shoot, you take the stakes with you, which nullifies the charge bonus for any cavalry. You also get a second unit of the polearm, the billmen, and they're 5-1 with a polearm, so very good at fending off cavalry. And I tend to use those as a backstop for the archers to retreat through, and they can stop most things, at least for a while. And the other bonus you get, which is the bottom line there, which is another unit of skirmishers, and they are 3-0 rather than the 2-0 for the standard skirmishers. Still means they can't shoot other skirmishers though, because short range, -1 penalty, -2 against skirmishers is 0. I think there should be a tweak with the rules there. Against other skirmishers, you don't get a minus because you've got so few dice already. Skirmishers can't really shoot each other in this, which seems a little bit strange sometimes, especially as they have a lot of difficulty actually hitting each other in melees as well, and can get stuck in a bit of a handbag fight, which can go on a long time. And I think we might get one in this game. So there's the terrain. The 2 large pieces you see are placed by me. So on the left-hand side, I've got the large wood, with an old camp scene there, which reminds me that one of the reasons I wanted to play this army so much was that it goes right back to the first army I ever used when I used to play the full Impetus game. Took it to my first couple of tournaments, did very well, but one of the big differences was attempting the multiple move, because they're pretty good quality troops, and you can attempt a few moves and try and get around flanks and make point blank range attacks, things like that. People are expecting a static line, whereas you could really move them. Not so easy now with the basic Impetus 2 rules, because you don't get the multiple move. And also in this instance, if you move and shoot, you lose the stakes. Well, I'm not sure the stakes is such a big deal anyway, really. I mean, if you can shoot the cavalry up, they're not going to have a charge bonus to lose. But that's the difference there. So anyway, on the right-hand side, we've got difficult terrain, which the archers can plod through. I think they become disordered. And we've got that 1 unit of light infantry who's got them somewhere to run through as well. And hopefully that covers off that flank. Roger put 2 woods in the middle as well. Really closing it off. I think he's trying to create a shield against the archer fire, because if they push down, they can just shoot them to pieces, perhaps. So you want to use that, come closer and rush out and take them, which means I have to set back further. But in these games, you want to be aggressive, especially in the tournament. There's no prizes for boring draws. You're going to try and break your enemy. So maybe I'll have to rush into those woods. But anyway, I'm deploying first because I lost a scouting role and I've got some heavy infantry. And really, I've got to pretty much plonk them down in the middle. So you see me starting to do that. And then immediately Roger's got his light stuff going behind the woods, which they're going to duck into his first opportunity and consider their options from there. So a few more units are starting to appear. As I said, I've got the light infantry covering that difficult terrain. I've split the archers to try and cover my options. So I've got shooters out to the left, one in the centre, one in the right. And I fiddle about to get some angles on them. And the way it works in difficult terrain, if I get less than half the base in there, then it wouldn't impede them. It wouldn't count as actually being in it. But it doesn't quite got that right. Okay, so as you can see, top left-hand corner, Roger's decent cavalry's appeared. On the top right, the light cav. I don't think he has to even put them on yet. But anyway, everything's coming out now. And that's more or less the final deployment area. So we do the roll-off. My opponent's going to go first. Rolled highest and chose to go first. So you can see on the far right, the light cav is trying to outflank. And I'm thinking the way I've deployed is a better view of my deployment. My heavy cavalry is at the back as a sort of reserve. So if I get outflanked on either side, the cavalry can intervene and chase off whoever tries their luck. Or they can come surging up through the middle and interpenetrate the archers, which are allowed to do. So it gives me the options, although I have to keep remembering things don't move as far as this as they used to. Especially the heavy cavalry, which trundle along at speed 2. So, but anyway, that's my strategy there, using the terrain to protect myself, but I've got to somehow find a way to force through as well. You can see the gap between the two woods at the top is when a large unit of Koreans is coming. And there are some skirmishes you might not be able to see in front of the cavalry on the top left, which really makes a difference trying to hit the cav. Because you can't ignore the skirmishes. And obviously, it's harder to hit than cavalry, and a -2 penalty for being skirmishes. It does negate the shooting. And I think that's the way to run cavalry in this. And shooting cavalry. Put the skirmishes in front. Skirmishes in this might not do much, but they are extremely useful. So there's a few from behind my lines. You can see some of the stakes appearing. Oh yeah, one other thing, I've got the 3-0 skirmishes up on the left, coming through that wood. So you can see the Koreans starting to advance up into that wood. Either they're going to shoot from the edge or come forward. Skirmishes protect them anyway. And on the far right, you can see I've got a unit of archers. Oh, my deployment slightly wrong where I described it. Far right, they've got the archers, which I've angled so they can shoot the light cav, unless they come really far forward, in which case the heavy cav might get them. And also the angle is such that I can also shoot at the sword guys, if they've got no other target. Sorry, they're archers on the far right. The light infantry I've got just off centre, because I thought if he didn't occupy the wood, these guys would be the ones to go and grab that wood for my archers to deploy in there and have a real central fire base. Right, on to the next turn, and again it's Koreans to go first. So there's a nice close-up of the Koreans in the wood, and on the right it's not actually a large unit, that's the arquebusiers with the twin sword guys supporting them, the 5-3, the scary ones. Skirmishers out front protecting them, and the wood. So they're very safe. You stick and twist, your best fighting units are quite safe at the moment, but they're not doing anything. It's a very tricky setup, I thought. I mean, the terrain I didn't think was suited either of us, really. And you can see on the left-hand side, cavalry protected by skirmishers, and the militia guys coming through the middle. So on the far right, light cav. Let's not forget those. Okay, so I've rolled the higher. I can't remember if I went first or second. Doesn't matter too much at this stage. But what you will notice on the far right is the archers in that difficult terrain have turned so that they can now shoot at those light cav if they want to run the gauntlet and come through that gap. And if they really deep through, the heavy cav will get them. And I'm trying to angle them so if the light cav run away completely, the archers can shoot as swordsmen if they stay where they are. I'm trying to get them just within the 45. Looking at that picture, I might not quite have got that. And you see the heavy cav shuffling across to block out his cavalry. And I'm getting the archers into position now where they can start to shoot at his units. At least can get one shot off in the middle. So on the far left, my javelin men, my 3-0s, are going to totally outclass his 2-0 shortbow men. They run in, throw 3 dice and miss. So you got to hit. Thank goodness I rolled quite low on the cohesion test on your 3. So I lost 1, which is shown with the red dots, the red ball, which you'll see throughout the game. The 2 is now their strength, and the sheep represents them being disordered. Hey, no Welsh jokes. They just look okay on the table if I'm going to put them, alright? Got enough counters flying around. Anyway, I'm not sensitive. Right, so here's a close-up of that situation. As you can see, the light spears are ready to cut off anything it charges through. And the archers are lined up. Where's my heavy infantry? I think they're lurking at the back somewhere. Yes, the heavy infantry just behind the archers in both cases. So that if we do get run through, the archers will lose them. And the archers lose a melee, they'll retreat back, interpenetrate the heavy infantry, who will then be able to see them off. And you can see the white arrow appearing, starting to shoot at that large unit, for want of anything else. And my archers have decided this difficult terrain's a pain in the butt because you keep getting disordered. They're going to move off and try and chase that light cav, and if possible then wheel round and get the hit on the right. Similar to what I did with the Chinese, you know, getting through the difficult terrain and swing round the flank. And it's starting to be a bit of pressure then, because I'm shooting from the front of the difficult terrain as well, and the cavalry surging round. Okay, so there's the overall situation, and that's Roger measuring out, because the light cav are going to run away from the archers, which are now going to turn, and they're starting to shoot. You see arrows starting to appear there. They're now shooting, hopefully trying to get to the swordsman and anything on this side, which are now in a bit of a crossfire. Bizarrely black and whites. Anyway, it's Korean's turn. I think he's going to have to use to go first. Otherwise, my longbows are going to be shooting to bits. So it's a bit tricky now. So the arquebuses have come out to face off against the archers and protect the swordsman. And my skirmishers are actually running up. And they're going to start trying to put shots into the side of the arquebuses. And I think his skirmishers are jumping in as well. So it's a bit tricky. I have to work from very small pictures. You get the zoom-ins, I don't. So looking at the left-hand side now, you see the arquebuses returning fire at me. The skirmishers are shooting. And the arquebus is shooting and doing no damage, frustrating for my opponent. Now the shooting's going the other way. And you see the red dots appearing. Got a hit on the arquebuses and a hit on the swordsman. And they got either keep advancing disordered or stop and get rid of it. Get rid of the red, get rid of the disorder, the sheep. Either way, in a bit of a tricky spot now because I've got two lots of shooting and the skirmishers coming through. And the rest of the army is pretty much out the game. So try and get some play on the far left. You see the Koreans starting to push up their cavalry. I think I've got that covered. The guys in the middle really need to come and help them at the same time, and they're about to. And the guys in the wood have now come to the edge of the wood. They realise just standing there is not going to work. They're going to have to walk into the teeth of it. On to the next turn. So as you can see, the attempt to shoot at the skirmishers. That's the yellow arrow there. Missing, and the arquebus try and shoot the archers, who are turning round to start shooting at his swordsman, and also no luck there. So I've been got away with it a bit there. With the dice are really going my way at this stage. Yeah, this is quite a nice little manoeuvre. The cavalry go up, take a shot at the archers, miss, thank goodness, and then the skirmishers jump back in, and I can't really shoot the skirmishers. And I've got a choice now, two targets, both coming in on these. So my heavy cavalry has moved up, and I've realised I'd be better off putting them a bit wider, I think. And I could definitely have cut off the angle and even got within charge range of the medium cav without being directly in front of them. So I could have got the drop on them as well. So that's something to remember. Leave a bit of room for the cavalry to manoeuvre. And the large unit's going to be through the middle as well. And they're going to get the shooting. I've turned it slightly. I want to shoot them because I can't get through the skirmishers. Unless he comes, and I've angled it quite cleverly. So at the moment the archer's just missing. If he comes nearer, then I will be able to shoot the cavalry because they'll be frontal. And also my heavy cavalry hopefully come in and cover it. And the light infantry and archers are covering the centre. And as you can see now, I'm shooting at the guys at the top because they're my most frontal suddenly. We're doing some damage. Yeah, start chipping away with the axe on the big tree because that's a large unit, but it's a good start. All round, good shooting all round really. Red dots across the board. So that's the overall situation. I've ended up my usual zigzaggy kind of defence. And using the longbows with skirmishers covering. I think it's probably about right actually. The only tricky bit is on the far right, the heavy cavalry going round to try and block off that light cav, which is always tricky. Right, so we're flying through the turns here, and I get to go first if I wish to. And with all that shooting going on, and this is where the jump comes in useful. If you can get your shooting done on the second turn disorder, then try and hit again, you start doing casualties. Yeah, so my cavalry have actually shifted across, which is where the sheep's appeared, because they're disordered. Yeah, which is a bit of a gamble as it turned out, because the Korean cavalry picked these as the target straight away, and if you had hit, that would have been a real pain. So they've gone from 6 Korean cavalry, I lost a hit, they've gone to 5, and lost a charge bonus and become 5 with no impetus bonus. So I dodged a bullet there with 3 dice, it's about 50-50, and that could have been a big mistake. You need to manoeuvre, deploy carefully, and make your manoeuvres early on, so that you're not disordered when the enemy gets near. Also, the skirmishers are running up to try and take shots at the archers. It also makes it almost impossible for me to shoot anything except the skirmishers now. Oh, by the way, my guys in the woods did jump out and have another go. They reduced to 2. They reordered, they jumped out, and they lost. Not really having a lot of luck on the skirmisher front. Although the ones in the middle are leaving a charmed life as they've been shot at again and getting away with it. So I really want to keep my archers shooting into his the twin sword guys if I can. They're disordered because they're turning. If I move and shoot, I lose my stakes. And I was thinking, oh, you know, is it worth it? Because he has got cavalry lurking around, but they are only light cav, they can't really charge me. Hev cav can see them off. But when you work out, you lose 2 points for moving. So I would be much better off anyway, so I think I skipped the turn of shooting. But they are lined up nicely now to start enflading fire. And hopefully the heavy cav, the reason the measure's there, the light cav can just squeeze past. Or they could have done, so I put the heavy cavalry so they can't get through the zone of control. I'm going to wheel them to block that off. It's an expensive unit, but, you know, I reckon light cav are as good as heavy cav. Especially in this situation, they're going to win if that stays like it is. Okay, so the shooter's coming in. And as you can see, there's some damage. The cavalry got the green dot. They rallied. The archers shot. Done a hit somewhere. Nothing too significant. There's the overall situation. Skirmishers in the centre. Still hitting and disordering on the arquebusier. And the longbows have also hit as well. On the twin swordsmen. So they're really struggling now. Hey, one of those crazy roll-offs. I got 7 to go first, and I really want to go first. I've got all the disordered units to shoot at again while they're disordered. Of course, it's double 1. So he uses 1 reroll per game. Got an 8. So I used my 1 reroll and got another 7. So, unfortunately, I lost initiative on this turn, because that could have been quite devastating. Yeah, so unfortunately on the far right, the heavy cavalry are taking their hits from the light cav. And I try and manoeuvre, but I'm disordered now. If I move... I think their job is just going to be there just to block and just take it. I'll try and... I don't know how much you can do. I really want the archers piling into the centre, because I'm starting to really do some damage now with that crossfire. If I can get both archer units hitting the same target, it's really going to start hurting. So what he's done now is you can see the twin swordsmen have advanced to get out of the shooting arc of my archers. So I'm going to be wheeling around and hopefully doing enough damage to the arquebusiers before they come through and maybe start doing some damage to my cav. So to be honest, I'm not too worried about this stage. They're kind of, well, left to their own devices. Right, so back over to the left flank. We'd managed to get rid of the skirmishers eventually, even though they'd killed my skirmishers and my 3 zeros. And the medium cavalry have shot at the bowmen and done a disorder on them, which makes a big difference. Because when the new rule of defensive fire makes them very powerful, because longbow A, as long as they roll 3 or more on a d6, they get a round of shooting at point blank range, which can be quite nasty. Disorder makes that more difficult. Also, it's 1 less dice. So we're looking at the charge for this large unit, and they're just outside the 2, because we're measuring everything to the unit, not the stakes. The stakes are just decoration. So he needs to roll a 4, 5, or 6, and if he hits them with a large unit. And my defensive fire is an extra 1, because I'm disordered, so I need to roll 4 or more. Oh, so the poor old Koreans roll a 2, which means they fall just short. That was 1, by the way, was my cohesion test, so only got a disorder, didn't lose any casualties. So that was a bit of good luck. Now, because they're disordered, because a charge has been declared, you still get to make a defensive fire, even if they fall short, such as they have done here. And there's a +1 for them being disordered. So it's back to rolling a 3 or more to get defensive fire. And boom, in that goes. Roll a 4, throw a few dice. They're already disordered, so it's casualties. So it's just the one. So we had a casualty on there, and he's rolled his cohesion test. I think it was one casualty. Yeah, so we have this poor unfortunate large unit now stuck in front of the archers, and this is where a case of if a rally, then can't shoot without losing the stakes or whatever they're going to shoot to help with rallying this situation. And we've got the guys behind and now planning a bomb charge. The heavy infantry could charge through the archers and make it perhaps. The right hand side, the heavy cavalry have moved up to plug that gap. And they're going to catch the light cav, but anyway, what it is doing is freeing up my archers to spin round. And here he comes through the wood, finally coming out of the wood. Coming through the middle. And it's desperation time now, because he's thinking that the game's really up for the Koreans, and he's just going to charge everything to try and, well, take me with him as much as possible. And I've grasped initiative here, and my light infantry, my brave Welsh guys with the long spears. Get in there, lads. 5 dice, done a hit. So at least they've done something. Yeah, and not only that, it's one of these things you have to think about in Impetus. It's because they've charged him first, they've got a disorder on him, done some damage. You can see the marker now, the heavy infantry can now go steaming in through the skirmishes, and they will be most frontal, and they will count as the main unit. So it's all their dice, plus half of the long spears dice, and as importantly, the heavy infantry being the main unit will take any incoming damage, which hopefully they can save with just a disorder, and the long spears won't get hit again. So it's a double whammy. So they go in, 3 6s altogether, for about 8 dice, I think, something like that, so not too unreasonable. Although a bit lucky. And they've gone reeling back with some damage on them, not very much unfortunately, but enough to knock them back into the wood. And we've got them just outside the wood. So what it means is I can charge them without being in the wood. And we're not pikes or spears, so there's no fighting penalty. I'm going to go for the follow-up. And rolled a 1. So it's kind of moot. And as everything's parallel, if he does charge out, he's going to hit both of them. So there's a bit of a no-win spot for those guys. Like I said, it's a bit of a desperation charge because of the situation elsewhere on the battlefield. So the skirmishers, which have been displaced by the heavy infantry, now run back through the heavy infantry and do some short-range javelins on his twin swordsman, who also gets shot by the the archers below have destroyed the arquebusiers, and the archers on the right are now shooting those twin swordsmen. So it's looking very bad on that right flank. So I did consider shooting again with the archers, even though they're disordered. But with the cavalry, they have cavalry lurking as well, long range. Decide just to go for the rally. So they're ready to defensive fire for next turn. Really be a nice one to go first, and unfortunately lost it. And this would have been a good one to use the reroll. A lot more chance of beating a 6 than an 8. So dilemma now. They're stuck on the edge of that wood. If they charge out, they're going to hit both units. Or he could do a wheel and charge, but unfortunately he's already disordered. So it's either a case of rally, charge straight ahead and take both on, or well, that's the two options. Neither of which look very appealing. So I've gone for the charge. Why not? I think the army's possibly going to break anyway. So I've rolled 7 dice altogether, because I get half of the light infantry's joining in. And we've done another load of hits. Bad news for those, and I think the back comes off the unit. There's 1 hit coming in to disorder the heavy infantry. So that's a bit of a one-sided fight there. And this charge goes in. And we make the defensive fire again. 4 dice. Highest is a 3. So defensive fire didn't do anything this time. They're going to have to fight it out. And my thinking here now is that if they lose, they'll break through the heavy infantry, who will take on the combat. And if they win, hopefully take on the heavy infantry. Yeah, but the Koreans really are having no luck. And those tough Welsh archer boys did a hit. He rolled high on the cohesion test and lost a couple. I think might lost the back rank even. The archers rolled nice and low on the cohesion test and just get a disorder. So they've repelled them, and the question is, can the heavy infantry now actually reach them if they want to charge them? So nothing's going right at the moment for the Koreans. Now, because I was very careful to place the heavy cavalry out of the front line of his medium cav, he hasn't got a charge option, but he has got the shoot option. Can't do much about it. Taking the disorder because of that. Yeah, so the twin swords guys have to bite the bullet. They're caught in a crossfire between 2 lots of longbows. They're going to have to come across difficult terrain. And light infantry should move quickly through difficult terrain. I think they move slowly. He's disordered anyway, so there's no real benefit to being light there at all. And it's just come to point blank range on the archers, and they're a bit stuffed, really. Oh, sorry, I've just realised I've been commenting on this all wrong. That's not a large unit. That, of course, is his 2 units of the heavy foot he's trying to burst through with there, which is why they're coming through slowly. And you see 2 yellow cones. They're the Koreans' disorder markers. The one unit charged in and got shot, then the other one charged through it. They got repelled and lost the melee, so they're both disordered, but they're both still there. Sorry about that confusion. And you see a close-up. The archers just disordered, and the cavalry disordered. So I think what happened here is the Koreans charged, lost, went back, and the heavy infantry pursued, hit them back again, but failed to destroy them. Meanwhile, the poor old twin swordsmen are getting shot from both sides, and the skirmishers, and it's actually the skirmishers which got the 6 that was required. The longbows didn't do so well, but the skirmisher waited instead. You can see all the low roads. I was panicking for a second because the longbows kept missing, but then the skirmisher finished them off. It was a bad day for those guys. So I get to go first as well, which is quite useful. So there's the overall situation. On the left, you know about, with those 2 units of heavy infantry now stuck in front of the longbows, and my heavy infantry about to wade in. I've also, if you notice in the middle, the light infantry, the long spears, they've actually started wheeling around to get into the flank of his heavy infantry and actually place a zone of control on them. And that is a slight advantage in being lights. Actually, I'm still disordered, so there's no zone of control. But anyway, they get into a nasty spot because they've got shooters and heavy infantry to their front, light infantry to their side. And as you can see, I didn't shoot. I've rallied the archers and rallied the heavy cavalry. So pretty much fresh, all those units. Yes, it was a slight misjudgment by me on the left, as my cavalry were just in the charge zone of the medium cav. It's a bit of a mistake by me. I won't make that one again, I hope. Although I probably will. And they've charged in, and I'm going to try and do a number on the heavy cav. And they've hit them and disordered them, but didn't actually do any damage. They didn't do any damage back, though, so they kind of locked. Yes, that's really it. The heavy infantry, I think they tried to charge the archers, and defensive fire got them. And he's rallied the other one. But that's the Koreans broken. Maybe the heavy infantry went to the woods. But anyway, the game's up, so we called it there. And yeah, it was a tough one for the Koreans, I think. I mean, I have to say I was pleased with the way I played this. I think I got it just about right. I can't think of anything I did particularly wrong. The heavy cavalry, I guess, are a bit lost out on the far right. Spent the whole game just taking hits from the light cav and rallying them off again. But it's kept them out of the game and freed up my archers to come and do their flank attack, which I was surprised came off without the ability to do multiple moves. And it's always a favourite tactic of mine. I really like this army, actually. I really enjoyed playing with it. And one of the things it brings to mind is advanced deployment. Because looking from the Koreans' point of view, I think if that wood in the centre, I think it would be a bit awkward for both of us. If you're going to go with that approach, what they will do is provide cover from the longbows. So if they were pushed further forwards, nearer to my end of the table, he'd be able to rush out and hit my archers, so I'd have to sort of deploy further back. Now this is what gets me thinking about the ace in the hole, because one of them is the advanced deployment, where you can deploy your units a further 2 base widths further forward, or not base widths, half base width, so 1 base width, effectively 12 centimetres. Now I think a trick has been missed with the aces in the hole, and I'll go through that and do a separate video. But this one in particular, with the advanced deployment, the problem is, if the Koreans did that, and said, aha, I'm deploying 2 further forwards, because you have to play the card begin deployment, I assume. Excuse me, or the first time you want to deploy a unit further forward, at the very least, I can immediately react to it and deploy further back. Which I guess is fair in a way, but how devastating this would be if you could deploy all your troops and then play it and everything moves forward too. Because if I haven't put the archers back, it gives a real jump and a chance to get in there. Now similarly, which people wouldn't expect with this army, is if I put the archers in the centre and I play the advanced deployment and shove them all forward, then any army that's deploying, they think they're out of range, like say particularly a cavalry army, which is deploying, say, centrally with a view to threading through gaps and coming around flanks, all that kind of stuff, they could immediately be in shooting range without me having to move the cavalry and lose the stakes. So that would be a really devastating card used that way. I'm still tempted maybe to use it in certain situations. I guess you'd pick the card after the terrain goes down. So you could look at it, and if it's open, maybe it's a chance to push up. But what I haven't done with this army yet is fight against a medium cavalry army or a light cavalry army, where flanks are going to be a real problem if I push up. I mean, I've managed to hold off the one unit because it's a narrow flank, and it's only one light cav. But if a couple have been coming on that flank, that might have been, it would have been more difficult. Similarly, if I just castle up in the corner, make a defensive position, I'm relying on the enemy coming to me, and that could be the drawback with this army, because you need decisive wins if you want to do well in the tournament. So hopefully we'll have a chance to practice against a cavalry army. Maybe something like Sultanate of Rome. Sultanate of Rum. Apparently Rum does come from Rome, but Rum is what they call it, which is the army I used last year, which went really well. I won every game last year, apart from the final, which... anyway. So there we go. Enough on that. I've rambled on. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your comments. And as this is Boxing Day, I'm recording this, I'm going to put my children's favourite Christmas Carol joke of the year. And it was, what is a frog's favourite drink? Coca-Cola. Oh, no. I liked it. Boys liked it. Hope you liked it. So until the next time, keep rolling.
是否还能红着脸？就像那年匆促刻下永远一起那样美丽的谣言。如果过去还值得眷恋，愿它靠平时前线。谁的心就这样彼此无挂也无牵？我们要互相亏欠。